9 out of 10 Crystal Skulls agree. Click like and subscribe to the Heavy Underground. Ooh, that one skull, let me tell you.
Making what has become an annual appearance in the Pittsburgh area, Louisiana sludge offenders Eyehategod infest the basement haunt known as Cattivo in the downstream Lawrenceville neighborhood on May 16, 2019 for a reckless night of hardcore punk, grind diversions, and hefty sludge stylings, joined by local hardcore icons Killer of Sheep, California grind freaks Phobia, a raucous New York hardcore throwdown from sheer terror, and a lesson in hardcore punk history from Detroit legends Negative Approach. Eyehategod marshal a vicious lineup of fetid aggression and virulent hostility. Local scene paragons Killer of Sheep opened the show with their clamorous strain of abrasive hardcore. Led by heavy music lifers Oyo on guitar and Greg on drums, Killer of Sheep are rounded out by Trip on bass and Ollie on vocals. Forming in 2011, the combustible musical mind meld known as Killer of Sheep has earned a distinguished reputation for delivering a ferociously high-octane brand of hardcore. Despite missing the first few minutes of Killer of Sheep's incendiary set, the ferocious hardcore bounce of Greg and Tripp's powerful rhythmic spree leads the charge on 2012's Clouds. With a kinetic elasticity, You're a Customer follows before a series of six-string depth charges stringently strafe the assembling mass of people with the 1-2 pummel of Thought Police and Sovereignty, both from 2017's Scorn full length. Ollie's virulent vocals cut, slice, punch, and bludgeon over top of the band's vicious hardcore avalanche as Killer of Sheep tear through a new song titled American Terror. A bass-heavy drag from Trip and careening riffs from Oyo ratchet up the intensity as the jig is up and use of force further blitz the growing audience. Wielding a hardcore sledgehammer of skull-crushing strength, Killer of Sheep launch into Lose Control as they approach the end of their set. On Stand Your Ground, the band builds up some momentum before unleashing hell with an abrasive edge to shadow the band's visceral hardcore. Practically achieving escape velocity, Killer of Sheep blitzkrieg through their final song of the night, bringing the band's hardcore dissertation to a rampaging close. The final song skitters to a highly caffeinated beat to finish the set. Setting a quick and abusive pace to open the evening, Killer of Sheep obliterate the stage with their ferocious strain of hardcore. From the band's 2012 debut EP to their most recent full-length 2017 Scorned, Even a New Song, Killer of Sheep's set delivers a blistering dervish of hardcore gold. Churlish bass, rampaging guitar riffs, unrelenting rhythmic strikes, and irascible vocal fire spark a sonic inferno to begin the night's heavy celebration. Nearing 30 years of unrepentant grind devotion, California-based freaks Phobia join the fray for an extreme dose of hostility. Founding mutants Bruce Reeves and Shane McLaughlin anchor the band on guitar and vocals respectively, with Danny Walker pounding the skins incessant and Kayla McKenzie on low-end mistreatment. An upcoming EP titled Generation Coward, due in August, finds Phobia continuing to obliterate minds and souls with a pitiless devotion to all that is grind. With a burly guitar barrage, Phobia launched forth into the appreciable Cattivo crowd with Internet Tough Guy and Rehashed leading the charge. Guttural vocals from Shane McLaughlin bludgeon the crowd in one moment, only to eviscerate the audience with a wailing shriek the next. On Blind Ignorance, a back pocket groove sneaks to the surface on occasion before returning to the pre-scheduled blistering harangue as Let It Go and So Full of Hate careen forth next, with vocal flaying and brutalizing staccato beatdowns pummeling the audience into oblivion. Fuck What You Think viciously rips into the thickening atmosphere as the next song, Beer Break, offers a brief but hostile comedy detour with this longtime live staple. Deftly deploying samples at the stomp of Brother Calum's foot, Phobia can quickly segue from one devastating fusillade to the next as Means of Existence lines up next to further incite the crowd. A cadaverous guitar tone from Brother Reeves injects the sound to a crushing degree as Imbecile and a rousing Corpse Slayer line up in succession to bury the audience in a landslide of grinding death. a skin-shredding tandem of riffs and vocals spit sonic invective into the night on 2008's Rise Up. Next, the 1-2 punch of Contradiction and Submission Hold from 2012's Remnants of Filth full-length open an ultra-doomed and dirty gravity well to swallow the venue whole. Voracious guitar tone further stifles the air on this suffocating twosome of disorienting grind. With pointed intent, the 2010 EP cut, If You Used to Be Punk, Then You Never Were, ends Phobia's malicious performance with one last quick fire grind expulsion. Blasting through a brutalizing 15-song set in just around 20 minutes, Phobia unfurl a terrifying set of grinding death. Strident and virulent riffs, unsettled bass runs, and an incessant drum barrage carry the band's influential grind attack. In a twisted symmetry of abrasion, heavyweight riffs bludgeon one moment and peel flesh the next, as McLaughlin's vocals switch effortlessly between guttural death grunts and a sharply barked strafe. Bass undercurrents harangue with a persistent and pounding gurgle as collapsing riffs break into brutalizing charges of death-addled grind. Roughing up the audience, Phobia successfully delivers a set intent on obliterating the audience with paint-scraping runs and depth-charging brutality. With a long and storied history tracing back to the band's founding in late 1984, New York hardcore mainstays Sheer Terror add even more heavy music gravitas to an already stacked bill. With original vocalist Paul Bearer leading the eternal charge, the band's pioneering crossover mugging is abetted by relative newcomers Johnny Eggs on guitar, Gary Bennett also on guitar, Jason Carter on bass, and Anthony Corallo handling the drums. With 3.5 decades inflicting harsh and strident punishment, Sheer Terror's history offers a transformative look at the changing soundscape of heavy music through the wide-ranging metallic hardcore explosion of the late 1980s and early 1990s. A surprising crush of slow-motion doom opens Sheer Terror's set before 1989's Here to Stay powers up, with Paul Bearer's burly vocals barreling through the band's hardcore rush. Mid-paced riffs continue the assault on I Spoiler from 1992's Thanks for Nothing. Up next, Heartburn and G wrecks the place like a hardcore dervish. Bearer, Carter, and Oyo from local openers Killer of Sheep deliver a tripartite vocal attack to highlight the song, as a hostile metal throwdown rises up to surprise once again. Settling into a hefty and suffocating pace, twisting and turning quickens the tempo with a bass-heavy punch. Between-song comedy foretells a shift in tone as Love Song for the Unloved takes the crowd on a melodic turn. An upbeat buoyancy permeates Love Song for the Unloved, and the next song, Salome, takes it even further with a forlorn croon overtaking Bearer's voice. Following the ruminative Salome, a sinister groove takes control on Roses. Further showcasing the depth in Sheer Terror's delivery, this track from the band's debut exhibits a quickly creeping pace with some dark and unsettled vocal work. Wallowing in a backwater churn, North Shore Love Affair offers a staggering story to tell. Squalling noise and an embryonic guitar solo add to the menacing vibes on North Shore Love Affair. Brother Corallo's drums jump into action, propelling Ashes forward into the fray. An underhanded swing bolsters the inherent malice of this next song before a simmering groove coils through the speakers on Cuppo Joe. Brother Bearer's gruff vocals and a barely contained hostility mark this song. A hardcore blitz ends Sheer Terror's set as 1989's Just Can't Hate Enough hurtles into the night. Fueling the mosh pit with sidewalk-sized slabs of sometimes congenial, mostly face-stomping Staten Island hardcore, Sheer Terror properly tenderized the crowd for the filthy and fetid bands to follow. Drawing heavily from the band's debut full-length, 1989's Just Can't Hate Enough, Sheer Terror level a well-received, fan-friendly set of metallic hardcore, dotted with a few more recent tracks to keep the proceedings interesting. Gallows humor from founding frontman Paul Bearer runs rampant with the band's melodically incendiary hardcore whirlwind highlighting this boisterous set from this long-running New York institution. Detroit icons Negative Approach round out the undercard for the night's musical infestation. Heaping reverb, quote-unquote, like a gymnasium on lead vocalist John Brannon's vocals, Negative Approach level a blistering old-school hardcore assault, made infinitely more pointed and hostile over the past 38 years of life experience. Hypocrite and Whatever I Do start the show with antagonistic sickness dripping from Brother Brannon's voice. Barreling fury fuels the song's downhill tumble as Whatever I Do leads into the regimented beatdown of Why Be Something You're Not. Pressure from 1982 cuts through the room with another whip-quick burst of rolling hardcore fury as this legendary band whips the crowd in convulsive glee. Can't Tell No One and Sick of Talk charge through the air, offering a quick and abrasive lesson in hardcore concussion. Riffs spring from the stage with hostile intent as Harold Richardson cuts a burly swath with his guitar as Evacuate is deployed next, to stomach-churning effect. The song bludgeons the crowd with a decidedly oppressive gravity before a short-fused attack follows up with Said and Done. A feedback-drenched interlude eventually opens into a foot-stomping, quick-paced skulk as Dead Stop circles from the stage, delivering the song's repeated abuse with an incessant and unsettled melodic tease. On Live Your Life, John Layle's drum hits fly from the stage in rapid-fire lockstep with the band's maniacal assault. Ready to Fight skitters through the room with a bellicose edge, and Your Mistake fires into the night with a quick and bass-driven punch. This trio of classic Negative Approach audio violence is quickly followed by a long-lost song recorded in 1984. An acrid round of feedback and noise briefly follows Your Mistake before the deep track Genocide sets the room off at a quarreling pace. With Genocide's assault having wrecked the place in short order, the band resumes its destructive path with Nothing. Mired by Brannon's fetid vocals, this 1983 bruiser also highlights Ron Sikowski's nimble and propulsive bass runs. Cutting a twisted and gnarled hardcore streak, Lost Cause next bounds into the night, launching a burly dose of buzzsaw punk through the Cattivo crowd. Next, a boisterous cover of Sham 69's Borstal Breakout offers a brief respite of more buoyant punk tendencies before descending into the hardcore maelstrom for the remainder of the show. Pointed lyrical aggression and a seething instrumental offense go for the throat on the band's namesake song, 1982's Negative Approach. Continuing through Tied Down, Brother Brannon spits his hostile invective over and above the band's intense delivery. Next, 1983's Friend or Foe lurks with a brisk hardcore admonition before the band's penultimate song, I'll Survive, assails the senses. Brother Sikowski's voracious bass churns endlessly underneath this acrid little ditty. Unleashing one more song for the weirdos in attendance, Negative Approach end their performance with Solitary Confinement, a cover from LA Punk's The Weirdos, bounding from the stage in a rambunctious hardcore punk send-off. Nearly 40 years older, but no less pissed off, Negative Approach bulldozed through their 22-song set with a voracious urgency. Embedding smears of melody within an abrasive hardcore shell, Negative Approach blazed through a sizable portion of their discography in a blistering 30-minute set. This legendary Detroit band's influence on headliner Eyehategod is evident on many tracks as Negative Approach's grimy and abrasive take on hardcore rages from the stage. Bellowing bass blowouts and buzzsaw guitar hostility hurtle outward at a frenzied rhythmic pace, while an incessant vocal barrage from John Brannon shrieks with guttural fervor across the sonic battery. Staging a spring infection campaign across the United States, Eyehategod returns to the Steel City for a night of heaviness and hostility. Manning the front line, the usual offenders Mike Nine, Jimmy Bauer, and Gary Mader stand their swampy ground, with Aaron Hill continuing to make Joey Lacaze proud on the band's drum throne, while the additional malaise inflicted by Brian Patton's guitar is still a noticeable absence. The band's sole six-string sludge slinger, Jimmy, provides the Bauer power to maintain the thick and weighted riff strangulation. As the band makes their way to the stage one at a time, the crowd's energy builds for the post-amplification blues prowess of Eyehategod. Strong-arming the audience into lack of almost everything, Eyehategod rip into a set full of distorted abuse and musical hostility. further ratcheting up the pressure, Jackass and the Will of God follows in soul-wrenching style. 2014's Parish Motel Sickness opens with a slow-moving crush as the song's second-half fury lies in wait. Dealing out a 1-2 sort of medley from 1993's Take As Needed for Pain, the riotous opening moments of Blank raises the crowd with an incendiary rush before the loping bass of Shoplift creeps from the stage to complete the infection. A humorous back and forth flows between the stage to the crowd before 2014's Nobody Told Me oozes from the speakers. Punctuated by repeated punches of staggered momentum, Eyehategod swamp the basement audience with their brand of bleak and torpid post-amplification blues. Rocketing with an unhinged clatter into agitation propaganda, the swamp monster himself, Brother Jimmy Bower, leads the charge with his acerbic six-string uproar. His guitar roars and squeals as Brothers Mater and Hill pulse underneath like a heart pounding on adrenaline, before agitation propaganda trails off with a narcotic drawdown. Coercive instrumental filth and Nine's sordid vocal rasp collide with white trash sleaze on the 1-2 fingerfuck of Sister Fucker Part 1 and its sickly sibling Sister Fucker Part 2, both from the 1993 opus Take As Needed for Pain. The Sister Fucker saga drowns out in Part 2's mire of debauched sludge. As the between-song banter continues, Nine name-drops the at-the-time ailing Ric Flair for a cheap pop before Brother Bower coils into Medicine Noose with a subversive descent, briefly erupting into the air before finally being drowned in the muck for good. Some comparisons to Iron Maiden are flippantly thrown around as Eyehategod ready their next sonic volley. Three Black Eyes makes its Pittsburgh debut as the band scrape and claw their way through this unsettling new song. Bleeding distortion fills the air as Eyehategod ready the crowd for the stifling sludge swing of 1993's Take As Needed for Pain. Overwhelming the audience on this classic track, Eyehategod continue the slow-motion destruction with the staggering waltz of New Orleans is the New Vietnam. Originally released as a 7-inch single in 2012, New Orleans is the New Vietnam churns from the stage with Brother Bower's guitar heaving over top in a distorted ooze. A quick and collapsing tear through methamphetamine follows as the show nears its finality. Pulled from 1996's Dopesick full-length, Methamphetamine is quickly followed by its album neighbor as Peace Through Peace and War throttles the air with a petulant schizophrenia. Bringing the night to a close, one last song emerges before the band play the night out with a swamped-out jam. Run It Into the Ground from the band's debut album ramps up before a headlong scramble twists into a 4-minute exercise in murky heaviness. Inebriated riffs and strained vocal ramblings slink and slither from the stage as Eyehategod end the night with a virulent and fetid swamp jam. With a career-spanning 1-hour set, Eyehategod overwhelms the Cattivo crowd with a filthy and fetid beatdown of the band's patented, motherfucking post-amplification blues. With a new song in the mix, our favorite New Orleans miscreants floor the audience with an overwhelming sonic crush. A putrid drum plod from Brother Hill erupts into Spartan rushes of spastic haste, while Gary Mater obliterates the low end with a vicious bass harangue, and Jimmy Bower's hustling guitar pulls double duty from the distorted gutter. Making it worse, Nine's vocal filth further disorients the crowd as Eyehategod stake their undisputed claim as the grime-coated kings of the heavy underground.